This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace.
Donald Trump is found guilty of 34 felonies in New York. What comes next? And what does the historic verdict mean for the former president? And a police officer is killed during a deadly ambush in Minnesota. The Morning Rundown starts now.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world. This is the Morning Rundown.
Today is Friday, May 31st. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kara Rucker. On Thursday, Donald Trump became the first former U.S. president to be convicted of a crime. A 12-person jury found the presumptive Republican nominee guilty on all 34 felony counts in his criminal trial in New York. Our Ray Bogan has more on the historic verdict.
Former President Donald Trump has been found guilty of 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree, becoming the first former American president to be tried and convicted of a crime. Trump will be sentenced on July 11th, just 4 days before the Republican National Convention. The guilty verdict means the jury determined Trump falsified the business records with the intent to conceal another crime. Trump was accused of falsifying those records to hide a $130,000 payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels. Prosecutors said that hush money payment violated campaign finance laws because it was meant to influence an election, although Trump was not tried on that accusation. The prosecution's case relied heavily on the testimony of Trump's former lawyer and fixer Michael Cohen, who pleaded guilty to lying to Congress in 2018 and admitted to stealing from the Trump Organization while on the witness stand. The defense tried to destroy his credibility by pointing out his lies and calling him the GLOAT, or the greatest liar of all time. Trump is certain to appeal the verdict. This isn't the end of his criminal troubles. He's still facing the classified documents case, the Georgia election case, and special counsel Jack Smith's case on attempts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Ray Bogan, Straight Arrow News.
The verdict in Donald Trump's criminal trial came down just after Judge Juan Merchan had let the defense and prosecution know around 4:15 p.m. that he was planning to send the jury home, as deliberations were expected to continue into a third day. But that all changed at 4:36 p.m. when the judge returned to the courtroom announcing the jury had reached its verdict. The judge warning those in attendance to not make any outbursts of any kind. The vocal reactions, however, came not from anyone inside the courtroom, but from a group of around 100 Trump supporters outside the courthouse, as well as opponents of the former president gathered across the street. Minutes later, the former president spoke to reporters about the verdict, turning his attention to the upcoming presidential election.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here.
Trump then left the area in his motorcade as it drove past the waiting crowds outside. Soon after, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, whose office prosecuted the case against Trump, took questions from reporters.
I did my job. Our job is to follow the facts and the law without fear or favor. And that's exactly what we did here. And what I feel is just gratitude to work alongside phenomenal public servants who do that each and every day. In matters that you all write about and make the press, and in lots of matters that you don't. I did my job. We did our job. Many voices out there. The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
Reaction has been swift from both sides of the aisle. President Joe Biden's campaign saying voters going to the ballot box in November is the only way to keep Trump out of office, while the White House issuing a brief statement saying we respect the rule of law. Meanwhile, House Speaker Mike Johnson called the guilty verdict, quote, a shameful day in American history. Following the guilty verdict in Donald Trump's criminal trial in New York, the question now is what happens next. Sentencing is currently set for July 11th. However, Trump is likely to appeal the conviction, which he will have 30 days from his sentencing date to do so. As for the sentence itself, Trump has been found guilty of falsifying business records, a Class E felony in New York, which is the lowest tier of felony in the state. A crime that could result in 4 years in prison for each count, though it is rare for someone with no criminal history to be sentenced to prison for this type of crime. The judge could instead choose other punishments, including a fine, probation, or house arrest. The Manhattan District Attorney has not said if his office will seek prison time. The judge could allow Trump to not serve any punishment until after the appeal process plays out. And when it comes to November's election, Trump can still run for president. Legal experts are in agreement that there is nothing in the U.S. Constitution that bars someone convicted of a crime from running for the presidency. You can get alerted to our latest stories on the verdict by downloading the Straight Arrow News app and enabling notifications. A Minneapolis police officer is among 3 people killed in a shooting on Thursday. Officers initially responded to reports of a shooting inside an apartment building in the city. Once on the scene, they immediately encountered gunfire, with police firing back. The Minneapolis Police Department reports 28-year-old officer Jamal Mitchell was then ambushed as he was providing aid to those injured, one of those being the gunman who shot and killed the officer. Assistant Police Chief Katie Blackwell described the incident in a press conference.
When officers arrived, they received gunfire immediately, and they exchanged gunfire. 2 officers were injured, and they were immediately brought to HCMC. Officer Jamal Mitchell died at the hospital, despite all life-saving measures by Hennepin Healthcare. The second officer received non-life-threatening injuries. The suspect on scene was injured, and even though he was injured in that gunfire, officer still rendered first aid, and he was pronounced deceased at the scene.
The shooting remains under investigation. Oscar-winning actor Robert De Niro is losing out on getting another award after an appearance this week on behalf of the Biden campaign outside the courthouse where former President Trump was on trial. De Niro was set to receive the National Association of Broadcasters Leadership Foundation's Service to America Award next Tuesday, but the organization rescinded the honor in the wake of De Niro's heated remarks. At one point, the actor claimed former President Trump could destroy the whole world if elected again. The NAB said De Niro's comments create a distraction from the organization's bipartisan philanthropic work. Finally this morning, you may not think a spelling bee could turn into a heart-racing competition, but last night's finals of the Scripps National Spelling Bee showed things could get intense intense.
Your first word is bruette.
Brouette.
Adelantado.
Adelantado.
Hypercheme.
Hyporchme.
7th grader Bruhad Soma clinched the win and took home the $50,000 prize by spelling 29 words correctly in 90 seconds during a lightning round tiebreaker. That was 9 more correct words than the other competitor. The 12-year-old is the 2nd straight champion from the Tampa Bay area. These are your top stories for this Friday. We'll see you back here on Monday. Until then, I'm Kara Rucker. Have a great weekend.